Michael, there's some thought amongst public comment that this action taken today against the 4 players may be a bit extreme. Do you want to elaborate on that a bit further?
Look, I think at the end of the day, with the team we have, with the position we sit in, being 2-0 down in this series, I don't think it's too extreme at all. I think the reality is, after having a couple of days off as a team, we were asked to do one thing by the coach in regards to preparation leading up to our first training day. 4 of the players did not adhere to what was required from them, and that is unacceptable if you want to be a part of the Australian cricket team. I think the one thing that I want the players to understand and the public to understand back home, that to represent Australia is a huge honour. We owe the game a hell of a lot every time we walk out onto the field, not the other way around. The game owes us nothing. So if you are not going to adhere to the standards of the Australian cricket team, if you're not going to do everything in your power to help the team, to help yourself have success, especially when you're 2-0 down in the series, then unfortunately there's consequences.
Is that all it was, the fact that they didn't hand in a note, or is this something that maybe has been building over a long period of time and now's been the moment to make the tough call?
No, it's a lot bigger than that. There's been a number of things on this tour that have not been as up to the standard that we would want as an Australian cricket team, hence our performance. You draw a line in the sand. This, like I say, after being given 2 days to freshen up, to think about your game, to think about where you can help the team, coming back into our first training day in preparation for 2 of the biggest test matches of your career, to have a chance at levelling this series, if you can't do as you're asked from the head coach, like I say, that's unacceptable and that has a consequence.
There were some question marks over the decision to discipline the 4 players. What did Mickey actually ask the team to go away and do?
Yeah, look, I don't think I need to go deep into it. I think at the end of the day, we're given a couple of days off to, yes, freshen up, yes, clear your mind, yes, get yourself ready and prepared for what's going to be 2 huge test matches to give ourselves the best chance of levelling this series. We were asked to write a couple of things down and hand them to the head coach. And I guess a lot of it was about how you can help yourself become better over the next 3 or 4 training days in preparation for the 3rd test match, and what else you can do for the team, to help this team have success and level this series. So to me, not only is it disrespecting the team, not handing this information in, but it's also disrespecting the head coach. And that's unacceptable at any level, let alone when you're representing Australia.
And you think sending a strong message like this will help improve the team's attitude and behaviours going forward?
Like I said, you have to have your standards, and we've set our standards. And I think there's been a few issues on this tour where we haven't been hitting the mark. And this is one of those it's unacceptable, in my opinion, for us to have the success we want to have as an Australian cricket team, for us to give ourselves every chance of levelling this series and going on. We've got a Champions Trophy, we've got an Ashes series. For the Australian team to get back to where we want it, we have to be very disciplined with these standards.
Is the big picture here about making sure that the Australian team can get back to number 1 in the world?
Without doubt. And that's been our focus for a long time and will continue to be our focus. And I think that's the main thing here. We can't afford to let our standards slip because 1, 2, 3, 4 players are not adhering to what's required of being an international cricketer, of playing at the highest level. There's a lot of teams you can play for these days. You can play IPL, you can play first-class cricket, you can play county cricket. In my eyes, representing Australia is different to all of those teams. And I hope every single player feels the same. I know the coach does, I know the support staff does, and I know majority of the players do. And it's as simple as that. We have a standard. You have to. Playing for your country, representing Australia, your country, people back home, watching, supporting, they want to see this team have success. And even if we don't have success, they want to see us fighting every single day to try and win. And if you're not looking after yourself, if you're not looking after the team, if you're not doing what's required to be a part of this great team, that's unacceptable, in my opinion.
Why make this decision now? Is there something that is just the straw that broke the camel's back?
I think it is. I think there's never a right time, but there's a standard. And like I say, if you're not hitting that standard, there's got to be a consequence. And for these 4 players, it's a tough consequence, there's no doubt about it. But in my opinion, it's the right decision.
Critics and analysts and the criticism may be that, you know, there's a bit more behind this, that we're not telling the full story. Is there any more to it?
No, like I said, it's not just about one incident. There's been a build-up to get to this. I think the other side is we have been very patient and are being very patient with the group of young players we have. We do have expectations, but we're realists as well. So we're not going out of our way to hit the boys extra hard because we feel like it. We want this team to perform the way we know we can and the way we know we should. And like I say, I know I continue to say it, but if you don't meet the standards that are required to be a part of the Australian cricket team, then that's the way it is, unfortunately.
Can you expect something like this to happen more often?
I hope not. I think it's the toughest punishment you can have as a player to miss a game for Australia, let alone a test match. It doesn't get any tougher in my view, in my opinion, than that. So I don't think we'll have another incident like that, like this. Sorry, you know. But I didn't think it would get to this in the first place. So you know, we need to keep our standards high. We can't afford to drop our standards because a couple of players are not reaching them. I think we need to be very disciplined with what we're trying to achieve, where we're going as a team. You know, it's not just about what's in front of us as well. We've got a lot of young players that have got a future for Australian cricket and a bright future. So we need to help them as much as we can. We need to stay patient, there's no doubt about it. But when it comes to discipline and when it comes to standards, to me, you set them high and you make it very clear to the players that this is what's acceptable and this is what isn't acceptable. And every single player in the team knows what's acceptable and what isn't. And the 4 players that have been punished or disciplined understand why and accept the consequences.
On a personal note, has this whole process, have you taken something away as captain and learnt something from all of this and I guess getting to this point and having to make such a decision?
Look, it's the hardest thing in the world. You know, you want to have the opportunity to pick your full strength team. You don't want any issues like this in a team. You don't want to have to discipline any player. That's the toughest thing in the world. But unfortunately, it's part of your role as a senior player, as a captain, as a coach, as a leadership group. And I'm very fortunate that I have a lot of support around me. You know, this certainly hasn't been a decision we've made lightly. You know, Mickey, the team manager, Gavin Dovey and myself have spoken a lot over the last 3 days. You know, it's important to the team.
With the team 2-0 down in this series and, you know, not quite playing the best cricket, it seems pretty drastic to take out some of your best players.
Yeah, well, I think the decision was made regardless of the player. You know, we didn't discuss the player before we discussed how it let the team down. So it didn't matter what player it was. The whole team was asked to provide the head coach with some information that was required to help us in preparation for the 3rd and 4th test, to give ourselves the best chance of winning the 3rd and 4th test to level this series. And 4 players didn't do it. The names were irrelevant. But if you can't do that for the team, when you take the field, I'm not confident you're going to be doing everything in your power to help the mate beside you.
Michael, when did you get the news from Shane that he'd need to head back to Australia to be there for the birth of his child?
We found out this morning from Watto. We spoke to Watto, and obviously we knew Lee, his wife, was very close to giving birth, and we knew that during this 3rd test or the 4th test there might have been a chance that Watto would have to fly home. So I guess, like we've seen for a long time, you know, plenty of players have gone back for weddings or for, you know, the birth of children. I think Ricky was a good example. Not that long ago, he went home between the 2nd and 3rd test in Sri Lanka for the birth of his 2nd child. So, you know, we've known all along this was going to be the case.